right, so let's move on to section 2. Section 2 is about what we do. Section 2 is about what we do. That rhymes. That's pretty good. Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, what do? We bring, what's it say? Help, hope, and healing, right? I want that to be burned into your brain. We bring help, hope, and healing to those affected by disasters. You're going to continue to hear those words. Let's talk about the first one. We bring help. We bring physical, tangible help to people that are in the middle of, for many of them, maybe the worst moments of their life. If you can imagine, if you've never been part of something like that, or maybe you know that disasters, they cause all kinds of chaos. I mean, all kinds of chaos, from, food shortages to your house being destroyed. If you think about the recent pandemic, right? You think about at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a shortage of what? Toilet paper. Imagine how frustrated you were. Think back to how frustrating that was. Well, put yourself now in a situation where your house is destroyed, and not only is there no toilet paper, but you need some plywood to cover your windows. There's no plywood to be found in town. You need some duct tape. There's no duct tape to be found. There is literally nothing in your town to help you. So what Disaster Relief does, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief work, is we bring help. We bring food. We bring outside resources. We bring people to come and actually help them with the very physical needs that they have right now. In these large-scale disasters, there is all kinds of stuff that is going on at the same time, and people running all over the place trying to figure out how to put their lives back together. And so we're there to provide physical help, whether that's food, water, shelter, showers, a place to stay. We're there to help bring those things, equipment, laundry to clean their clothes. If they're in a flood, all of their stuff is now disgusting with mud and all kinds of stuff. And so we're bringing help to them. We also want to bring hope. As you might imagine, it's for many people a very hopeless situation to go outside after the chaos of a hurricane and find your neighborhood decimated, or your home is 3 feet deep in water. It can be an extremely hopeless situation. And as they look at their damaged home, they begin to wonder, how am I going to deal with this? It's a bad situation. And so we want to bring hope. We want to bring a little bit of hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel, because it is completely overwhelming, as you can imagine. And so outside resources, outside people can help the survivor realize that, okay, I can get through this. And of course, because we're Southern Baptists, we bring the hope of who? The hope of Jesus, right? We bring the hope of Jesus. And in these moments when people are at their rock bottom, and many of you know this from personal experience, it's when you were at your rock bottom that you finally reached out to Jesus for help. And so we have opportunities to share the gospel. We have opportunities to bring the hope that although this life may be ruined right now, the chaos that you're dealing with may be overwhelming, that there is hope for a future in Christ Jesus. And so we bring hope, we bring help, we bring healing. That's the third portion of it. We bring healing to those survivors of disasters just by simply being there alongside them. If you've ever experienced a traumatic event in your life, which I'm sure that you have, even just having someone there with you, maybe not even saying a word, but just being there with you, helps. It helps to have someone to talk to. And so Southern Baptist Disaster Relief workers are listeners. Let's talk about what a disaster is. The definition of a disaster is an occurrence that causes human suffering. If I even just stop there, human suffering. I mean, we're in the middle of a disaster right now, are we not, in this country? And we're recording this in 2021 in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic, for those of you that are watching maybe years on. It is an occurrence that causes human suffering or creates human needs that the survivor cannot alleviate without assistance. So the survivor, they can't deal with the situation on their own. They need help. That is a disaster. A disaster normally affects more than one person and has an element of danger. Now, there are all kinds of disasters, okay? All kinds of disasters. Think about some of the disasters. You talked about some of them. What about a bridge collapse, right? This is a disaster. What about a house fire? Absolutely. There's all kinds of things that can happen. Train derailments, right? So there's different types of disasters as well. We classify disasters in several different ways. First of all, the extent of destruction, whether it's a primary or secondary, and natural or man-made. When thinking about extent of destruction, we know that some disasters, of course, impact multiple states. So like the hurricane in Louisiana that happened, we had Texas, Louisiana, and Georgia all affected. I mean, that hit the Gulf Coast, and there are millions of people affected by that. So the extent of that is large. But then also, like we said, we can have a house fire that really only affects one family, but it is absolutely a disaster for them, right? Or someone loses their job. That is a disaster for that family, and we can respond in kind. Other disasters may target just a town, like a town floods, or a neighborhood floods because of a pipe that bursts or something like that. And so it may be only one house, maybe 40 houses, maybe 400 homes that are affected. One house catches on fire and catches several on fire. An apartment complex catches on fire. Now you've got 70, 80, 100 people out of a place to live. So the extent of a disaster is important. And then there are primary or secondary disasters. In a hurricane, for instance, the primary problem is what? Wind and water, right? Wind and water. Well, what happens during high wind events? What blow over? Trees blow over, power lines blow over, roofs get ripped off. So the wind causes a roof to rip off, right? That's primary. And then 2 days later, it rains. And that house floods because there's no roof on it. That's now a secondary disaster. So you've got primary and secondary disasters. You've got people, let's say that a neighborhood floods, okay? And not all of the houses flood. And so you've got one family that their house was built up just a little bit higher and their house isn't flooded, but all of their neighbors' houses are flooded, and that you can't even get into that neighborhood. So this person, even though they live in a house that is totally fine, they can't get there because it's 4 foot in water all around it. So there was a disaster for everyone else, and this is a secondary for them. Think about power lines. Power lines go down, electricity goes out. Electricity goes out, now your food is spoiling. You can't do things that you need to do to work on your home. There are primary disasters and secondary disasters. There are the main things that happen, and then all of the other things that come that are attached to that. So there's all kinds of disasters. Think about a power plant, right? In Arizona, we have a nuclear power plant. Think about the disaster that would happen, and every year, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief goes and does mock exercises there. Think about what would happen if that thing decided to blow up. I mean, this is a man-made thing that could blow up. And it's going to cause chaos. All right, let's talk about the four phases of disaster response. Of course, and you're going to see it goes around, I would say the circle, but it's not really the circle. it's a square-ish thing. We've got the phase of readiness, and these things are in your handout as well with a bunch more information there for you. We want to be ready. We always want to be ready and make sure that our teams are trained. That's why you're doing what you're doing right now, to make sure that our teams are always trained and prepared and ready to move whenever something happens. We want to be able to respond if something happens near us or far away. Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, we just sent some teams up to, just last month, sent some teams up to Colorado to help do ash out. All of those wildfires that went through Colorado, we sent teams up there to help those families that lost their homes work through the ashes of trying to recover some of their property and clear the spot so that way they could begin to rebuild. We respond to the states close to us and then also far away from us. So we want to be ready. We want to respond. So that's the response level that Southern Baptist disaster relief teams can respond within 24 to 48 hours. That is our goal. We want to be ready to respond within 24 to 48 hours to bring emergency relief, such as feeding. In the middle of the chaos, all the restaurants are shut down. All the stores are blown out. There's no food. Basically, we're bringing in food from the outside and feeding people right then on site where they need it. Not only feeding survivors, but the workers that are helping those people in the chaos. We bring shelter, childcare, crisis counseling, all kinds of emergency needs we can help bring in those things. But we need to respond. And then the third section is recovery. That disaster relief teams, Southern Baptist disaster relief teams, all around the country are ready to serve, helping those families that had a flood or a fire or their house is destroyed or whatever, help them begin to recover. And we have multiple different recovery teams, ash out, mud out, chainsaw, all kinds of different things that we can do. And then, of course, the last phase is the rebuild phase. And a home that's been destroyed, we go in and we help recover things there. We help them recover from that event. And then for maybe up to years later, teams will go in and help them rebuild. In the recovery phase, we're pulling all of the junk out, all of the stuff that has mold, all of the stuff that's been destroyed, pulling it all out, putting it on the street for the city to come and get. Well, now the home is just empty. There's no drywall. There's none of that stuff, right? And so there's mud everywhere. We get all that stuff out, and now they wake up in the morning. The studs are bare. There's no drywall. What do I do now? I need help rebuilding. And so the rebuild teams will go in there and help them do that. And so as we rebuild, we got to be ready for the next one and the next one and respond and recover and rebuild. And it's this big circle, or I guess square in that case. Let's talk about some of the services that disaster relief offers. In your handout, you will see that, and this handout is for our nation. So nationally, we have a ton of things that we do as Southern Baptist Disaster Relief. What I want to talk about in this training here for Arizona are the 6 areas that in Arizona we really focus on. Let me talk about the 6 main areas that we focus on when it comes to recovery, okay? When it comes to our response to disasters. First of all, we've got chainsaw. Now, chainsaw was the most recent call out that I did down in Louisiana. There were hundreds of thousands, if not millions, probably millions of trees that had come down in that event. That was mostly a wind event. Hurricanes have different kind of levels. Some are very much rain, some are very much wind. This one in Louisiana, in Lake Charles, was very much a wind event. And so there were trees down everywhere. A chainsaw team will respond to help homeowners gain access to their property. That's really the main thing that we do in chainsaw work. We're trying to help the homeowner gain access to their property because there will be trees. As you can see in the picture there, that's Les up on the top of the roof. Well, in order to, and there's going to just keep coming water through that roof, right? As that tree has pierced that roof, there's going to be water and water and water and water coming through that thing. So we help get the trees off the houses, out of the driveways, out of the streets, away from the home, so that way the roofers can come in and do their jobs, right? To fix the roof, to do those things. And so much of what we do in chainsaw work is making access. Because if a homeowner comes back and they can't even get into their driveway because there's 3 trees down, we want to make sure that they can get into the driveway so they can start doing the work themselves as well. What I did when I was in Lake Charles this year is I recorded a bunch of stuff on my phone. And so I want to show you just quickly one of the houses that we were at, and just to kind of give you an idea of what chainsaw work is kind of like. So let me play this. Sketchy situation. This house has trees. Yeah, we had to park under that one there. That one there. And of course, I'm on the skid steer trailer, and there's a tree over us here. If I pan around, you can see there's at least 100 trees down here. And we're trying today to help the owner get access to their farm equipment, their tractor, way back in the back. So I'm going to take you there right now and give you a peek of what's behind the house. And then additionally, let me take you over by the house, because we're trying to clear around the house so that way they can get their roof repaired, which they cannot yet, and trying to give access to APS, or I guess it's not APS, the power company, to be able to get power on back here. And there's just no way that they can get in. So we're really trying to just create some paths today for other workers to come in and do some work. And so if I pan this way, you can see this tree. It is a really long tree, very, very close to the house, nearly hit it. It didn't. You can see that it twisted here and fell. We're going to take care of this one as well, because this is preventing access as well. And so you can just see, I mean, trees everywhere down if I pan around. All right, guys, after our first break, you can see behind us, we've cleared all that area there. There's our pile starting behind me. The guys are about to load up and pull this one off the tree with the skid steer there. They're gonna pull it back that way and try to release the tension here. And we're making a way here so the equipment can get in to the house, because there's still obviously tons of stuff in the path, but we're working at it. All right. You want to drive the skid steer? So we'll stop there, because I mean it just keeps going and going and going. But so we had on our team, the oldest member of our team was 83, and she was our chaplain, and she learned how to drive that skid steer and drove that because she couldn't carry a lot of stuff. And so with the skid steer, all you got to be able to do is this, you know. And it was perfect. She did such a good job. Kelly Orta became our skid steer champion. She's a lot younger. She wasn't 83, but she was so good. Learned that skid steer really quick, and man, she could get that thing through tight spaces and manipulate that thing so well. So you'll see there on that team we had men and women, younger. Well, Kaylin was the youngest. I think Kaylin's like 35, and then we had someone who's 83. So we have people from all walks of life, all ages, all skills, working together to be able to get a job done. So that's chainsaw. It gives you kind of a visual of what we do in chainsaw. And of course, we have next to talk about recovery. Recovery encompasses a lot of stuff. That encompasses mud out or muck out, getting mud, debris, water. In this example, you can see here the bottom pictures were from when I was in Houston. That's the mold that developed in about, I think, 4 or 5 weeks after the floodwaters. So in a perfect petri dish environment, mold grows very, very quickly and can be very, very dangerous for the people living there. And so what we do is we go in and remove all that stuff. And in order to remove it, you got to cut out all the drywall. You got to get rid of the insulation. You got to get rid of the furniture. You got to get rid of the flooring. If you see the flooring, we started doing the flooring in that house because it was all just destroyed by the water. And so the top right picture is from Nebraska from 2018, I believe, when, if you remember, the Mississippi River and all those other rivers up there began flooding. And Nebraska and Ohio and all these places just flooded everywhere. And so we went up to Nebraska. We were in that basement for 3 days, getting all of the mud. At that point, we're almost done getting the mud out. And you can see the floor was a regular white floor. I believe it was painted white. And you can't see the white in that picture. That's all just the mud and the oil from the ground and all that stuff. It was head level in that building. So it was, 6 foot deep in that basement. And so it destroyed everything in there. Recovery can be fire damage. So we do ash out. Like I said, we do personal property recovery, meaning when there is a fire, there are things that sometimes get saved in the fire. So we help work through the ashes of what's left to help the homeowner find, maybe they had a ring that was really important to them and that's all they really care about. And so we will work to sift through the ashes to try to find that stuff, kind of tell us in the area of the building, okay, where would it have been about? And we work through that area trying to help them. Maybe they're looking for a safe. Maybe they're looking for something that was really important that they know was kind of in that area. We'll help them look for that. And then, of course, clear the property so that way they can begin to rebuild. Let me show you another video really quickly. Just a story, that Bible there that you see, that is a Bible. Such a really, really cool story. That Bible was floating in the basement that you see in the top right in Nebraska, Scott's basement. The water was coming up the stairs of the basement into the house. And they were just praying that God would do something, that it wouldn't come into the house, that it would stay in the basement. And Scott was the homeowner's name. He saw his Bible floating by, and he grabbed it, and he set it on a shelf. And when we were cleaning up, you can see there's just stuff everywhere. When we were cleaning up, one of our team members found the Bible opened up. And we asked him, well, what is this about? And he goes, man, I just saw the Bible floating by. And he said, so I set it aside. And you probably can't see it. But if you look really closely, it's opened up to Isaiah chapter 53 and 52. And it's in this part of the scriptures where Isaiah begins to talk about a Messiah who would come. The coming Savior. And so we got to use that opportunity that God's talking to you here. And we're going to share the gospel with him that God has sent his Savior to save you. And yes, this stuff is destroyed, but it's only temporary. You can live forever with him for eternity. And Scott prayed to receive Jesus that day. So we have incredible opportunities to share the gospel. God does incredible things on these call-outs. And that was just one of the pictures that I love that picture. I mean, the Bible's destroyed, of course, but it was a perfect opportunity for us to be able to share the gospel about a coming Savior who would save the world. And he responded. And so in a flood area, basically everything that got wet that's able to take on water has to be thrown away. It just does. And so the streets will be full of all of the trash and the furniture and the beds and the drywall and the carpet and all of those things. The streets will be full of that, and the city comes and brings their trucks and get rid of it all, and then we help deal with that chaos in flood recovery. There's all kinds of things that are happening in those situations. You really need to be very, very flexible in recovery work. Let's talk about feeding. So we're going around the horn. We've got chainsaw, and then recovery, which is ash out, mud out, and then feeding. Our feeding crews serve two purposes: feed survivors and feed our workers. So it is likely that whenever we send a recovery team, whether it's chainsaw or mud out or someone like that, it is likely that we're going to send a feeding team with them that's going to help feed them. Because as you can imagine, if you're working chainsaw all day, you are hungry when you get back, right? And so because we're in an environment where restaurants aren't open, they're destroyed, we got to cook for ourselves. And so our feeding team will respond by themselves sometime to feed thousands and thousands and thousands of survivors, or just feed us, or feed a combination of both. Our feeding teams are what Southern Baptist Disaster Relief are known for. It is our bread and butter. We are known for around the nation being able to feed people. And of course, it would be Southern Baptists that feed people, right? We all revolve around food. That's right. And you will eat good on a call out. And as a survivor, you will eat good if Southern Baptists are cooking your food. So many times, the Red Cross is going to buy the food, Southern Baptists cook the food, and then Salvation Army serves the food. It's so crazy how it's like this whole cooperative thing that happens. Let me show you another video really quickly. Hey guys, we're just after work right now, and we're eating dinner, and you can see this is a pretty common setup for dinner, a bunch of tables. This is after work, so everyone has showered, and you'll see the feeding line. You go in there and you come out there, or something like that. Anyway, this is pretty common what a call-out feeding would look like. Not always inside. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. This is a blessing to be here at Trinity Baptist Church down in Lake Charles because they have AC. So we have, Arizona has a very large kitchen that's mobile, that we basically set everything up under tents, and it's all outdoors. And then we also have a smaller event trailer, which is kind of like a food truck, but it's a trailer. And so we cook out of both of those things. Our feeding crews go all over the nation, or just serve at local food banks that are, maybe they had a problem, or a church is having an event, a bunch of missionaries to come in, and they need help feeding. So we can do that. We can respond to a bunch of different scenarios with feeding. Next is our shower and laundry unit. These are pictures when it was actually deployed here in Yuma at Crossroads Mission. Our shower and laundry unit is a support unit that we send with our crews of chainsaw workers, recovery workers, because as you can imagine, you get very dirty out working in a flood zone or chainsaw work or whatever. And so it is very nice to be able to come back and get a hot shower and get your clothes cleaned. And so because so many churches do not have showers and all these things for people to use, we take it with us. So when we deploy a team to New Mexico to help with chainsaw or whatever, on site, there will be a shower unit for you to use, and usually a laundry unit for you to use as well. And so our shower and laundry unit, let me show you a video really quick. Hey, good morning, everyone. We are here at the shower trailer you see behind me. I'm going to walk over there so you get an idea of what it's like. You'll see here, we're at our base, our central location. Behind me there, that's Incident Command. You can see fuel trucks behind me here. And this is pretty normal for a call out. Our shower unit is here, and you can see, let me show you, take you inside one of the units really quickly. You can see here, I'm walking in. It's just basically a shower stall here, and we've got chairs and things like that for you. Our shower unit will provide you with towels and washcloths and things like that, and then they also do your laundry. And so each day you get yourself really dirty doing mud out or chainsaw or whatever, and so you bring your clothes here and they wash them for you overnight, so you've got a clean set. So you really don't need to bring a ton of clothes, because usually on these sites we'll have laundry, and you can see right here behind me, these have been packed up and are clean for the person to pick up today. So I hope you can hear me, and you kind of see this is the shower unit. There are a lot of different shower units that kind of different design, but they're all pretty much the same. You have an individual shower that you get to use, and then they'll do your laundry as well. So from the housekeeping side, that's kind of what things are like on a call out. All right, so that shower and laundry unit, as someone that goes on recovery teams, that thing is priceless. To be able to get a hot shower after a long day of work and to be able to have clean clothes taken care of for me, I absolutely adore the people that run the shower and laundry unit. And then, of course, next is we have chaplaincy. Oops, I missed. We have chaplaincy. So we have chaplains. We have several people that have recently, I know, Scott, you did it, right? You did the chaplaincy training. Several people that recently did chaplaincy training. Our chaplains are the ones that are responsible for the spiritual care of the team that they're embedded with, as well as the spiritual interaction between the team and the homeowner. Because likely, or the survivor, likely they will be embedded with a recovery team, a chainsaw team, or something like that. This most recent call out that I went on to Louisiana, we had our chaplain with us, and she was cross-trained. All of our chaplains in Arizona are going to be cross-trained, meaning that we want them to be part of the recovery team or the ash out team or the chainsaw team or the feeding team or whatever, so that way they're just not sitting around waiting for a spiritual conversation, right? That they're working. They're working in the environment that everyone else is working in, and then if something comes up, then they can respond. They are trained and continue to be trained on how to deal with people in the middle of crisis, how to counsel in crisis and things like that. But our chaplains, you'll see here, our chaplains are the ones that take care of the homeowner. Here you see on the left, there's Les talking to the homeowners. That was in Lake Charles, I believe. And then over on the top right, there's another homeowner. She was a French teacher. We were in, I think, Sulphur at her house. But anyway, she was a French teacher. Really, really awesome lady. And our chaplain built a bond with her, very much, a very good bond with her. She was the interactor between us, and she helped care for the spiritual needs of the homeowner. And our chaplain also helps take care of the spiritual needs of our team. You see here, you see Norma on the bottom. She's the one standing up. She was our chaplain for that trip there. In the evenings, the chaplains will do devotions with the team. They'll pray for the team. They'll make sure that the team is firing on all cylinders spiritually. They may ask you questions. Hey, how you doing? Are you okay? And so they help take care of us, the workers. But then they also interact with and help take care of the spiritual needs of the survivors as well. And so our chaplains are, I don't say a support role, but they're embedded with our other teams, as well as our drivers. So our drivers is the sixth kind of part of what we do. Our drivers have to be specially trained in order to drive our equipment around. Because as you can see, some of these trailers are really, really long, really heavy. And so all of our drivers are embedded with teams as well, meaning they're not just driving you to the site and sitting in the truck while you work, okay? They're part of the team. And so they transport equipment for us. They're the ones that drive. They may transport equipment from Arizona that we're not going to use, but say New Mexico needs it. And so they'll take the trailer from maybe here in Yuma or Phoenix and drive it to Las Cruces or whatever. Drop it off for them to use, and they'll come back. Our drivers will go back and get it. They're the ones that move equipment all over the U.S. And so those are the 6 main things that we do in Arizona. And then inside all of those areas, which I think I have it back up on the screen, inside all of those 6 main areas, there's also training inside those. There's all kinds of trainings that you can do to be further qualified. We have blue hats. The blue hat is a supervisor. They're the ones that are the unit leaders. So you can, after you get training, say on chainsaw, after you've done that for a while and the other blue hats see that you have some leadership skills, that you know what you're doing, you're not going to cut your foot off, things like that, you can try to go and, kind of move your way up, if you will, and become a unit leader. There's first aid training that we just talked about. There's assessment training. Assessors are the people that go in after the chaos of a storm or an earthquake or whatever, go into the home and assess the damage and help us figure out who needs work and who's going to get priority and all that. There's that type of training. We have water purification training. Heavy equipment operators, you were talking about being a skid steer operator. We've got training to do that. There's all kinds of other training that are inside those other categories. But those are the 6 main areas that we work in. We've got CPR training. We have critical incident stress management training, which is kind of more for chaplains, but helping people deal with stress management in a time of crisis. And there's all kinds of other things that you can do in Southern Baptist Disaster Relief. But for Arizona, these are the 6 main areas of focus for us.